and he had a special relationship. But it was Z.K. Matthews who guided Seretse through Lovedale, Fort Hare, parked him at Wits for a while, but then sent him onwards to London. But it was more than that, because during the school breaks, Seretse would be at Puting. That was the name of the house of the Matthews in Eastern Cape. He was nursed by Frida Matthews. And so that is the other guardian that I did want to mention. Now, I can't resist also with the winds of change were mentioned. And as Ray McMillan was going to Cape Town, he stopped in Francistown, and he met with members of the European community and DCOSI, and this included Seretse and Lady Khama. And Peter Falkus, who was then the resident commissioner, wanted to show multiracialism. So he lined it up everybody, couple whites, black, couple whites, black, in a queue to receive the Prime Minister of Britain. And there's a lovely picture of this, by the way, a photograph, but that's for another day. McMillan went down the line. The last person he came to was Seretse Khama, standing there with his wife. And Seretse said, "Look, we are like piano keys." And McMillan is said to have laughed. And that was what sent him off to his Winds of Change speech from Botswana land. But he did have a meeting at that time talking about constitutional progress in Botswana land. I think I don't want to use any more time because I know we're going to have questions and answers. I believe I'm supposed to lead the Q&A. So do we have questions from the floor? And please, when anybody can raise their hand, please identify yourself when you speak. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Paishal Sabelo Sagale. I ask God to guide me on how to be able to construct the question that I'm about to ask, for I may not live to ask it again. But I want to know, my elders, since we are privileged to have been in his presence while he was alive. My question that have been pestering me all along, that would take me to my grave is, but would be happy that I go to my grave having asked, is him being the father, the founding father of the nation. Who was the benefactor, the intended benefactor of all the state entities that he appended his signature upon when he was the president? In Setswana, I'm saying, ke mang o neng a solofela kana o neng a tshwanetse go bona boswa jwa sa neng a se saenela ga ile tautona? He was the president of the country. He appended his signature on all state entities, like say where the offices had to be and where everything has to be. Who was the intended benefactor of such?
Okay.
God knows.
Yeah.
I rest.
I think we'll take several questions, and remember, we're directing our questions to the speaker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Seretse Khama from the University of Botswana. Thank you very much, Your Justice Pumapi, for the first ever lecture. Well, I'm not sure if it's the first. I think what I want to say is to do with, the lessons. Dr. Ramsey has just said we have discussions about history, talking today about the future. There's so many things that our dear beloved Seretse Khama has done for us. For instance, a simple thing like national service, tirelo setšhaba, the impacts or the benefits that we saw out of a program like that, and then moving forward, what are the lessons learned? And moving forward, how can we, take that program again and maybe reappropriate it for today's times, for the future? We know what we are facing at the moment. So small little lessons of maybe policy or whatever it is that he had introduced. How are we benefiting from that and reappropriating it for the future? Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Theo Monageng, and I'm a data analytics specialist. And I'd like to ask Honorable Justice Pumapi, looking at the current situation that we're facing now in the country and the similarities of what happened back in 1967 when we first discovered the diamond, and just after taking independence in 1966, and then looking at what is happening now with the historic victory of the UDC in 2024, and then discovering uranium again in 2025. This is a year similarity. And after the diamond was discovered in Botswana in 1967, we then saw the investment of in education, and after being educated, going directly from institution to workplace or to employment. Now, with that being said, looking at the recent mineral discovery and the times that we're in, how long would it then take for us as Botswana to see the tangible outcomes of these minerals, similar to what happened in 1967? And after the discovery was made, how long did it take for them to be able to reap off from these national treasury benefits? Thank you.
Good evening.
Go ahead, please.
My name is Charagano Mereki. Thank you very much for the public lecture. It was very insightful, especially from someone who lived during Seretse's time. When Seretse died, I was doing Standard 3. The only thing I remember about him was his funeral. Sore was very nice in our young minds because there was a lot of activity. Going back to the lecture, the topic, I'm still struggling with the first word in the topic, democracy. And I want to ask a question around that, especially that you talked a lot about the Constitution. My question is, in my understanding, Section 1 of the Constitution says Botswana is a sovereign republic. Botswana is a republic. My understanding is that a republic is a form of government, just as democracy is a form of government. And I'm struggling to understand why we characterize Botswana as a democracy. And I haven't passed that. I'm still there. I haven't gone to Seretse Khama. I'm just still there, the Constitution. And my worry is that we want to amend or change the Constitution, which I fear we don't fully understand. Maybe before we change it, we need more public education around what is the original intention of those who were at the Lobatse Constitutional Conference. The other issue that I struggle with around our Constitution is some people say it was imposed. And I want to ask whether what was happening in Lubatse in 1963, where all existing political parties and chiefs were represented, do we call that a constitution that has been imposed on us, or it's homegrown? My view is that our constitution is homegrown, and before we seek to amend or change, we must first understand. The last point I want to make on the constitution is that I really got to appreciate why it's important to go to the original intention. I think it's the Mutumisi case, if I remember well. His lawyers went to London to go into the archives to really understand the original intention of the framers of the Constitution when it came to the appointment of judges, whether the president can disagree with the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission, and what they found really won them the case. So my concern now is that aren't we quick to change something that, as Botswana, at least for me, we don't fully appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see many hands, but also see mics being distributed. So we've got a person here, we've got a person over here. Okay.
Dumelang bagaetsho. Ke na le potso mme ke tla re before ke botsa. I will read two quotations from Seretse Khama about democracy. The first one is when he said, democracy, like a little plant, does not grow or develop on its own. It must be nurtured if it is to grow and flourish. It must be believed in and practiced if it is to be appreciated. And it must be fought for and defended if it is to survive. That is a quotation from Seretse Khama at the National Assembly in 1978. The second quotation is when he was in Kanye at a conference, when he said, for me, if you give me a further mandate, I will see to it that more and more liberal measures are introduced into the tribal administrations and will not countenance a feudal system in the 20th century. In fact, it is time careful consideration were given to the use of ability and not birth as a determining factor, even in tribal leadership. This was Seretse Khama addressing the 8th annual conference at Kanye on the 5th of April 1969. So indeed, Seretse Khama was a Democrat, and these are some of his ideas, which I have just quoted. But one wonders that under his leadership, how would you justify the existence of the Tribal Territory Act? Because although it was passed in 1933, but it existed during his government up to this point now. The Tribal Territories Act is a problem. And I would like us to reflect on the Tribal Territories Act, all of us, and see how we can live with such an animal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I do want to invite Justice Pumapi up to the stage, please, sir, because you're going to be fielding most of these questions. And secondly, I would beseech the audience, because there are many hands up, to keep your questions a little bit concise. I mean, we do appreciate these sharings of perspectives, but let's give enough time for everybody to have their chance. I see the hand that's been up here on my right.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, okay.
Go
Pula.
ahead, please.
Kelumedisa Kapula. Thank you very much for this great opportunity. I think it's an exciting opportunity because we get to reflect, you know, on our founding fathers, and I think Botswana is privileged to have had a founding president like Seretse Khama. And here is my question, former Justice. Looking at Seretse Khama and how he got to govern, his presidency, you would agree with me that it was during he was still young, including the vice president. And Rajaf mentioned that he was also mentored by Seretse Khama during those times. And looking at Botswana, and during that time, you would say that Seretse Khama's presidency was more anchored around our culture. So our culture provides the basis of his leadership. His leadership capabilities were exuded, were augmented, were shown by they were given, I don't know the right term for that, but I could say he got to show her executional skills because of borrowing from our culture. And our culture, I would say it's a high performance culture. And looking at the leadership from then up to now, you would say that
Welcome to beautiful Botswana, where the warmth of her people and wildlife is welcoming, where the vibrancy of her land echoes in the unforgettable voices of her people. Come and see Botswana in her splendor, a place to live, work, and invest. Botswana, our pride, your destination.
Let's raise our flag and cheer on our champions. Arvai Remuroko. Hola the mares, hola.
Aremi ngadinao re supporteng bomme ba re ba tsenya mo di back pages tsa rona re ba tsenya mo di programeng tsa rona.
All the best, you know, we've done it before, we've proven that we can be a good side. Let's go out there and show Africa hore we can be an even better side.
The mares, we have seen your resilience, we have seen your consistency. We are very proud of you, we are rallying behind you, and we will see you in Morocco.
Africa is calling, and Botswana is ready. Come to Botswana and unwind. Come to Botswana and explore the beauty of our country. When the dust settles, we will be waiting to receive you. Come explore, experience, and enjoy. Botswana, our pride, your destination.
Hurt people will hurt other people. So let's break the cycle of violence. Seek help, even if you were abused many years ago. Do not wait for a volcanic eruption of your emotions. Say no to gender-based violence. It starts with you.
How are you? Really, how are you? If this question irritates you, if it sparks a lump in your throat, please get help and talk about it and say no to any form of violence.
Nearly 1 in 4 females and 1 been 7 males, aged 18 and 24, who have experienced childhood sexual violence, have had their first incident happen at 13 or before 30. This could be your story. It could be your husband's story, your children's story, your mother's, even your father's. So open your eyes, open your ears, use your voice. Say no to gender-based violence. #no excuse.
Gender-based violence is an injustice that silences potential and destroys lives. It is not just a personal issue, it's a societal crisis. We must stand together and break the cycle, speak out, and support those who suffer. By raising our voices, we create a safer, more equal world for all. Change starts with each one of us. Let's stand together and stop the violence today. #enough is enough.
We had the first Living Annuity Conference this year, and I think going forward we're going to have regular engagements to demystify the whole issue of retirement and to provide better solutions to the general workforce.
Yeah, yes. because retirement is a major issue for society generally, but I want to say for our society specifically, but for our society, owing to a lack of knowledge, or being equipped with the right knowledge to make the right decisions about retirement. So I want you to speak to that, especially when you're offering services around retirement. Some of us probably don't even think it on a daily while you're still working.
In fact, there was nothing at the time. The country was very poor. There was not much I'm looking for a word. But there wasn't really, there was no risk, let me put it that way. There was no risk that people could do something to the national coffers. But there have been some legislation which was passed, which has facilitated the dilemma that this country is in. Whereas at the time this constitution was made, people were focused on building the nation, which they did. And then, of course, without the proper checks and balances, now we are where we are. I don't know how else to answer, but we are where we are because our constitution does not provide adequate checks and balances, particularly on the president. So this is why I was asking Mr. Mohasa, give him an assignment that you gentlemen, or rather it was Mr. Ramaotwan, he is the lawyer, amongst the ministers here, to look at this thing. Because once something has gone wrong, I mean, those old men, Seretse Khama and their colleagues, most of them, I can say all of them, really did very well for this country. But now we are where we are. I don't know what the other question is, because I wasn't really noting these questions. What is the other question?
Well, maybe we could take some more, and there's suggestions.
I'd really prefer a question, maybe 2-3 questions, and they are clear what the questions are. You ask a question, if you give a lecture, I'll probably get lost on the way. Ask a question as precise as you can.
Yes, let's reset. And indeed,
what did you say about tribal territories, by the way? I heard
he's
that.
asking about the Tribal Territories Act. Why should we still be having it?
Well, the tribal territories. You know, tribal territories really.
Sorry.
Oh.
And it's also suggested you might want to sit down because then the cameras have a better angle.
Get nasi. Anga tulamela tari. Mana juku kana ke bana mogolo men. The Tribal Territories Act, it's a relic of the colonial period, because that was really meant for the administration of the protectorate. It didn't really mean that, how do I put it now? It wasn't really about the tribe. They just drew if you look at them, what we now call districts, well, sorry, districts have been reduced, but before that partitioning of the districts, I think the colonial government just wanted to cut up the country into manageable subdivisions so that you probably have a district commissioner will cover a certain area. Mind you, at the time, there were very few, what shall I say? I mean, there are not many, the country didn't really offer much. People, generally, the majority of the people led a rural life. They didn't move about a lot like now. There are no things like passports, by the way. For instance, people just move. Going to Mafikeng, as an example, or Bulawa, you probably get a piece of paper from district commissioner to say you want to go there, and you go. The passports were introduced in 1963 for information. I mean, for everybody. Before that, you got a British passport if you are going to travel internationally. Internationally meaning like going abroad.
Yes. I think.
Yes.
You. Who probably have done some research in certain areas. And we are here to exchange views, not to cross-examine the judge. So can I suggest that if a question has been asked, and there is someone who has researched on it and can provide us with the best way forward. Let that person answer the question, and not necessarily Judge Pumapi, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I welcome that suggestion. Plus, I'm going to try to run it now more like a press conference. That is, when we have questions, they should be questions. It's okay. They should be questions, and I'm going to take 3 at a time. But we've got lots of perspectives. What I would summarize about a lot of the questions so far, and also arising from the lecture, is that yes, the Constitution needs to be chewed on. I know our government is looking into that, and so I think that's just one of the lessons that's coming from both the lecture and the comments from the floor. Now with that, let me open the floor again to questions, and I'll have to give the honor to His Honor, our former Vice President.
Thank you very much, the moderator. Let me thank first the Minister for having organized such a meeting, such a symposium. I think this is just the beginning. And you will excuse us for a little bit of confusion and whatever, because it's just the beginning. We had such a thing in 2018 around September, when we invited the former Liberian leader, Sawyer, to lecture on democracy. But that was a different subject. I think this one is just confined to the period of Seretse Khama. So I'm not asking a question. I'm rather trying to comment what has happened today, and also commend Judge Pumapi for having availed himself his time to address these issues. I think a lot of issues that he has said do not raise questions. They are not anything to say we can ask him to explain this or that, because they're very straightforward, and a lot of them, like someone who is just taking the floor. If we go for academics then and research, then we will raise a lot, because democracy today, and those who are researching on democracy today, will come up with a lot of different issues. The contemporary will be quite different. But one thing we have to applaud the minister for, as I've said, is to organize this. And we must always remember that when we are saying we are a shining example of democracy, what are we saying? And periodically, which period has led us to be the shining example of democracy? And we must also understand that when you talk about democracy, he talked about a lot of other subject development and others. It's tied to that. And we also understand that today we are talking about material content when we are talking about democracy. We are not just talking about the ritual of 5 years. After every 5 years, we have an election. So there are more questions to democracy than that. We go beyond that. But this is another subject for research and a proper symposium. And I think we must revive the likes of Botswana Society, which we used to have in the past, which would research on these things. And we have our high institutions of learning to take this subject head on. So that's where we have a debate, structured debate, and we can help each other. Like he was saying, in such a debate, it's not only from the presenter or the one who is lecturing. It's like he coming here to officiate, to open this. It was not somebody to be saying, no, we are going to ask and you will answer all the questions. He can't, from his foot. Yes, he can do that if you give him time to go and research and do all those. So I thank you very much, and I bow my head for you, Judge, for having agreed to come and address this. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think we've been having a nice dialogue, and I think we can have further dialogue after we wrap up, because we're going to have a reception. I think it's been a wonderful evening. I think the final testament to why we're here today, or why we are celebrating Seretse Khama, and why we are here, is that he was not just a president of a single party or a single tribe. He really did belong to the nation as a whole, and that's why we, with whatever, our unity and our diversity is really, the seeds were planted in the early years of our republic, and I think that's the spirit that we see here tonight, and that's why we will continue to celebrate the legacy of Sir Seretse Khama, come government after government after government. And indeed, I do think if he's watching us today, I think he'd be happy to see that there's change in this country, because he was somebody who believed in the dynamic nature of politics and society. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to our MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramsey. Ke tla kopa tlhe motsadi wa me gore wena le Honorable Retired Justice Pumapi le ka boela ko ditulong tsa lona tse le simolotseng bosigo jwa gompieno ka tsone. My elders joining me on the stage, I do invite you to resume residence of the seats that you had taken residence of at the beginning of this program. Let's give them again another round of applause. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, tomorrow is a tremendously big day for so many people in the background, in the front seats, and in the middle seats, everywhere else, and sundry. In that regard, we wish to swiftly wrap it up as humanly as possible to allow for all the commemoration layers that shall unfold tomorrow. I will, however, take up this rare moment to salute and introduce to you our next speaker. She's one of the distinguished rare breed of Botswana women who have risen to the tremendous call of a national duty. Previously, she has boosted the capacity of prominent women in African politics between South Africa and Botswana in the background as a special advisor. She is an international studies graduate with a sharp pulse on economics, communication, foreign policy, and she's a social justice advocate and humanitarian. I do quote what she once said once upon a time: winning in such a platform as a party or national elections should be an endorsement by the majority of the rank and file of one's strong leadership capacity, a testament to being visible, active, and present on the ground. Her appointment as Assistant Minister for State President is a brilliant illustration of this administration's commitment to enhancing gender equality and the empowerment of the Botswana woman. Ladies and gentlemen, the first time I had the privilege of sharing the stage with her, she made me cry in front of an international audience at the SADC Energy event. I implore you, Assistant Honorable Minister, please don't make me cry today with your sentiments. You can see me after class. I'm happy to receive them privately because my eyelash glue will not make it through if you do what you did to me last time. Ladies and gentlemen, please receive at this podium to deliver the vote of thanks, Honorable Maipelo Muputi.
Director of Ceremony, I will let you off the hook this time in the interest of time. Director of Ceremonies, once again, allow me to stand on existing courtesies in the interest of time, and obviously because ga ke batle go senya sepe. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I honor and appreciate each and every single one of you gathered in this place. The servant of God, Professor Rathedi, am I right, has already ushered us into the very throne room of God, imploring the Almighty to unite hearer and speaker. And so you have made my task this evening very simple. I shall rush straight into it. It is both a humbling honor and a sacred duty to extend on behalf of all of us a heartfelt vote of thanks on this profoundly significant evening. a night in which we have not only gathered to commemorate history, but to reawaken the legacy of a man whose life shaped our nation. Tonight, of course, ladies and gentlemen, was about honoring a son of the soil, a man of uncommon courage, a man whose story defined borders, broke barriers, and built a nation. Seretse Khama was not only the founding president of Botswana, he was the very soul of our nation's moral compass. His was a leadership forged in fire, exiled for love, silence for principle, and yet never once did he waver from the dream of a united, independent, and democratic Botswana. We have heard the minister, the retired Honorable Justice, and many of the speakers that ascended to this podium talk about his legacy and his quest for a united, independent state led by integrity. The list is by no means exhaustive. Allow me to quote from the Holy Scriptures, the book of Psalms: "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Though he may fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him with his hand." That Bagaetso Seretse Khama was indeed ordered by divine purpose is not a question. And tonight, as we remember him, we are reminded that righteousness still exalts a nation. To Honorable Retired Justice Pumape, what a stirring and enriching address. You have reminded us that memory is not just about nostalgia, but about national inheritance. You walked us through the quiet strength, the sharp intellect, and the principled diplomacy that defined Seretse Khama's leadership. You have helped us not only to remember, but to relearn. For this, we are immensely grateful. To the former Vice President Reslam Batsokhane, thank you for your presence here tonight. Your continued support for platforms that honor the founding fathers of this republic reaffirms the very ethos of continuity, respect, and reverence for those who came before us. To the Khama family in absentia, we thank you for sharing this nation with a man whose light still guides our path. It is said that a tree is known by its fruit, and indeed the fruits of Seretse Khama's legacy are evident in the peace we enjoy, the institutions we uphold, and the dignity with which we walk in the world as Botswana. To the Ministry of State President, all organizers and partners, thank you for giving Botswana this moment, a moment not just a moment to remember, but to recommit. At a time when Africa was painted with the brushstrokes of instability and dictatorship, Seretse Khama painted a different picture. He gave us a Botswana defined by peace, rule of law, and prudent governance. He resisted the temptation of absolute power, choosing instead to build strong institutions and trust in the people. This is our inheritance with every generation. It is our duty to protect it, to nurture it, and pass it forward. As the book of Proverbs reminds us, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Seretse Khama did just that, and today that inheritance is not only in the pages of our Constitution or the institutions he built, it is the very character of Botswana. Let this not be an event as usual that ends when we rise from these chairs. Let it be a fire that burns in our homes, our classrooms, our boardrooms, our parliament, and in the quiet decisions we make every day as citizens. Let us be reminded that the greatness of Botswana was not accidental, it was intentional, and it came at a cost. May we never take that for granted. To everyone watching across the nation from all the corners of Botswana, re a leboga. Thank you for participating in this important national moment. As we close, I leave you with the words of Isaiah. You will be called the repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings. May we be that generation, a generation that restores, remembers, and builds. And I'd like to close with just reaffirming what the young gentleman from the audience just questioned. As a UDC government, a generational mix, we take it very seriously. You know, we've got the wisdom of the older generation, that of course being displayed in my minister, myself as well, his assistant, young, agile. We are the generation that pushes the envelope, but we do take collaboration from both generations very seriously, and I can assure you that there is room for everybody in this nation as we continue to build it from a very solid foundation that we have already found in place. So rest assured, you're important and you have got a place to serve in this nation. With that, Honorable Minister, ke kopa go tswala re sempe re di tsala mo audienceng ye tlotlegileng ye. Thank you so much and God bless you all.
That is the Republic of Botswana's Assistant Minister for State President, Honorable Maipilo Mophuthi. As she briefly mentioned towards the end of her speech, we are very live on various platforms. In fact, I've been getting a barrage of WhatsApps and messages. Very, very briefly, I will share with you, I promise you, it was fantastic feedback. But those of us who are joining us for refreshments, you get the one-on-one story from myself after the show is over. Professor Malebogo Rathedi, ke a go kopa Meme Rathedi gore o tle gore tswalla thulaganyo jaaka o re buletse. Ke a go leboga.
And pray for, I will take it to the top.
Thank you once again, our graced, powerful, and energetic Director of Ceremony. And to our guest speaker, Honorable Justice Retired Pumapi, you are indeed a living legend and an epitome of knowledge, having given us a vast knowledge and insight with regards to democracy during.
This is us. We like to walk, talk, and dance until the earth shakes. We like to play. After all,